Hi everyone. It is very good to have you here. I hope that you can all hear me okay. I have had a few issues with my microphone recently, but hopefully this will be absolutely fine for today. It is so good to be here, first of all. Now, this is live streaming. I am going to be doing a Q&A at the end, so if you have any questions, pop them into the comments and I'll pick those up whenever we get to the finish. And I'm also going to pop the recording onto YouTube as well, just so it's a bit more accessible for people and people can obviously come along and watch the on demand. This is all about rejection. And really what I'm wanting to help you do is to help you recognize rejection and really how it makes you feel, understand what it is that you can do about that. And we can reframe our thinking around rejection and what it is in order for us to take some positive action and to use it as a way to help us on our path rather than something to be feared or to be avoided. Okay? Now, we've all had situations in life where we have been rejected or we have feared rejection. I, for one, have had my fill. I have had my fair share. It comes about in romance. It could be whenever you're interested in that person and they're not interested in you back. Perhaps it's a partner that has cheated on you. If we look at jobs and career, it's maybe been whenever you've been applying for a job or you've got to the final stage of the interview and all of a sudden you faced rejection there and you haven't quite been good enough. You haven't cut the mustard. Or perhaps you've even been laid off from a job. We experience it with our friends. We experience it within our families. Rejection is really something that impacts us on all areas of our life. There's no avoiding it, unfortunately. And actually, the way that it impacts on us is quite profound. It can cause us to act out in a lot of different ways. We can form stronger attachments because of rejection. We can emotionally eat. We can start experiencing OCD. We can have emotional outbursts, depression, isolation. So it can have a really profound impact on us as people. And you know what? It really just makes us feel like we're not valuable as a person. That's ultimately why we fear rejection, because whenever we are faced with it, it makes us question our quality as a person. It makes us question our worth. So it's one of those things that really benefits us whenever we start to understand rejection a little bit more, how that plays into our life. It really empowers us and gives us the opportunity to reframe that a little bit and start to think of how we can use this to our advantage. So I often see people walking through life with burdens on their back. Whenever Spirit are bringing me images clairvoyantly, or if I'm in a coaching session with somebody, sometimes even whenever I'm doing a reading, I see people with burdens on their back. And whenever we start to use those burdens as leverage, I see the burden coming off the back. You set it in front of you and you stand on it. And it's a way to elevate yourself. So that's really what we want to be able to do with the opportunities that we have whenever we do face rejection in life. Now, I'm not saying that it's easy. Rejection really presses on our emotions. And although emotion isn't permanent, our emotions are constantly changing throughout our life. The different situations that we have found ourselves in, emotions lessen, they change, they shift, they become more positive over time, they hurt less. But it's still that fear that we want to protect ourselves, the fear from the hurt, the fear from the embarrassment, the fear from not feeling inadequate. So we want to try and move past that and be able to recognize how we can really use it to our advantage. So I had actually listened to a few other people speaking about rejection. I've seen quite a few different memes and things like that on social media. And somebody had actually focused a lot of their attention on the fact that rejection is projection. So it's somebody else that is projecting onto them their own inadequacies. And whilst that can be true, I don't think that it's always a case of that. I don't think it's always a case of somebody projecting onto you. So a really good example of that is that currently I am connecting in with some of the old people that I knew within the business world. And I'm really eager to be doing more public speaking and more inspirational speaking. I want to really provide something to people en masse where I can offer some upliftment and help them reframe their thinking around certain life situations and challenges. And this particular person, she's very well known locally as a speaker. She has been speaking for many, many years. And I was really hoping to lend her ear and her experience and her knowledge in order to help myself in some way. So I had explained to her, this is what I was trying to do. Could we connect? I think you can help me. And we had organized a date and time. And she hadn't actually confirmed. And I had went back and I had chased her again, and still she didn't confirm. And the date and time of our appointment that we had originally agreed on to meet online had sort of come and passed, and I still didn't have a message from her. Now, immediately we would feel, or we would be likely to feel in those situations, certainly the old version of me, my default setting would have been to think, oh my gosh, I'm not enough. I'm not enough. There's something. I would have all of these different thoughts going through my head of why she's scoffed at this, or why she's thought, oh no, and that she hasn't had the courtesy to come back to me, to even cancel or to let me know that this wouldn't be happening. And actually, I took that as an opportunity to really do some self-reflecting, first of all, and to take this as an opportunity to learn and educate myself that it's not always about me. Yes, I might be the center of my own universe, but the reality is I have no idea what's going on in her life. She has got a path. She's got her own business. She does public speaking. She runs TEDx. So there are a lot of things going on within her world, professionally and probably privately as well, that I really have no idea on. She could have had the worst week of her life, the worst few days of her life, and I wouldn't know. So first of all, I just accepted that actually she's on her own path. This isn't automatically a rejection of me. And I think it's really important that we think of things like that. Not everything that happens to you where you feel rejection or where you perceive rejection is a rejection. It's just something that has come about where for whatever reason the schedules didn't match up, or things have got lost off, people have got preoccupied. Some things will just sometimes not happen the way that we want them to. And actually, the better way to think of them are that actually rejection is protection. Perhaps there is something here within the universe where the universe decided, you know what, Gemma, this isn't the best time for this conversation. It's not the best opportunity right now. Let's just sort of put a wedge in that there, put it on pause. Maybe we'll return to it at a later date. So I'm not holding any malice towards her. I'm not sitting thinking to myself, what a bitch. I'm just appreciating that actually she's a very busy person, and she was doing me a solid in the first place by giving me her time. And yes, it's disappointing that we haven't been able to sync up, but hopefully that will come back round again. And I trust that the universe will bring it to me at the right time. Now, I have another story around rejection, and it's probably one of the most profound that I could really share with you. And this will really give you a flavour of how those closed doors really are protection, and how they lead us on to the path that we're supposed to get onto in the first place, something that is more aligned with us. So if you're not familiar with my own personal journey, I am a psychic medium and life coach. If you're a part of my community and listening to this live, I will assume that you know that about me, at least. I haven't always done this as a career. I haven't always been aware of my spiritual gifts. Those are things that came to me in later life. So I had a big career in the corporate world. I was a headhunter. I run my own business. I worked in tech. So I have had quite a significant corporate career. I was very much into climbing the corporate ladder and had no interest really in spirituality. That has really been my life. Now, I had quite a profound experience. I was going through my spiritual awakening at the time, and I was starting to become aware of the spiritual gifts that I possessed. And I was in a position where my confidence really wasn't coming along as well as what it should have done. And whenever my confidence wasn't there, I wasn't excelling in my job because I was feeling inadequate anyway. So that was really translating through in my performance. I worked in sales. So for anyone who has ever worked in sales and business development, you understand that actually you need to be confident in what you're doing in order for you to get the results at the other end. If you're not confident, then you're almost doomed to fail. That's really how the energy works. So I really wasn't feeling as confident. And I had a week's vacation. I took the week's vacation, and during that week's vacation, COVID hit. And it was the week of pandemonium when companies were shutting, they were laying off staff, and everybody was isolating. We had masks. Everything came to a halt. And I think that there might have been some isolating and working from home and everything at that time because people just didn't want to be using public transport. So I was due back to work after 1 week. On the Monday morning, my boss first thing wanted to have a Zoom call with me. We were all working from home. We were all told under no circumstances are you to come into the office, everybody, not just me. And he wanted to have a call with me. So we caught up at 9 o'clock and he told me, unfortunately, Gemma, we're going to have to let you go. And honestly, I cried and I cried and I cried. It was so overwhelming to have that rejection. So I had this emotional outburst. But at the same time, it was a weight lifted off my shoulders as well, because I knew that I wasn't succeeding in that job and I wasn't being my best self. But then at the same time, I had all of these fears around, well, what am I going to do? How am I going to earn a living? How am I going to pay my bills? How are people going to perceive me? Whenever I go for another job, what am I going to say? So I had all of these fears, and my poor boss at the time, bless him, he was feeling so uncomfortable. I was the first person he had ever let go. He was new into a leadership role. So he was also joining in this sort of uncomfortable energy that I was experiencing. And actually, I think it was about a week or two after that situation, I really spent some time gathering myself. I was at an all-time low when it came to my confidence. It was really quite difficult. And obviously, we were all isolated. I'm a single parent. So it posed an awful lot of challenges for me when it came to my mental health. Now, I then found out that my cancer had returned. Sometimes life really does come and give us a bit of a slap down. There's nothing like kicking someone when they're down. And I found out that my cancer had returned and I was going to be losing my breast. And I was awaiting the surgery date, and I knew that there would be the expectation that there would be some sort of treatment plan with that. And I thought to myself, well, gosh, how do I go and get a new job now whilst telling them, well, actually, I'm maybe only going to be here for, a couple of weeks or a month before I have to go off and have surgery and then, potentially have chemo and everything. So I went on sickness benefit, and it was a very, very challenging time in my life because I didn't have an income coming in, and that was probably the poorest that I have ever been in my adult life. And I had this challenge. I was losing my breast. I'd just been rejected from my job. It really did feel like the universe was against me. Now, what really happened in that time, and I want you to be able to take this on board, that actually rejection can be your biggest blessing. Because in that time period, I had been fighting against my spiritual awakening. I had been rejecting the idea of following the path of using my spiritual gift and following my coaching, where really my heart was leading me to. But I didn't want to do that because I wanted to be accepted. I wanted to be embraced by other people. I didn't want to be perceived as different. But I also wanted to maintain the status quo. I wanted to stay in the industry that I had been in and earn money. Even though I wasn't happy, it was familiar. It was comfortable for me. I had an income. I didn't have to think about setting up on my own again. There was all these different thoughts that were going through my head about financially. Well, how could I make it happen? I was on a really good wage. How can I change lanes like that? So it really seemed an impossibility to me. And actually, what happened, it was the best outcome that ever could have happened. And I wouldn't have known that. Had I been left in charge of this myself, I would have definitely not had things happen as seamlessly as what they did. So luckily for me, I had cancer. Luckily, it seems such a bizarre thing to say. Luckily for me, I had cancer. I decided to not have chemotherapy, but I did have to have surgery and I lost my breast. What happened was they put me a fake boob in, so I got to keep the breast. And then they thought, well, you know, Gemma, you're older, had kids, it's not as perky as what it was, so we'll make the other one perky to match. So I kind of got like a bit of a boob uplift. So I can run around braless now, which is something that I hadn't been able to do for such a long time. And so that was the first positive really that came out of it. The second was that where I was at that time, geographically, whenever you're on sickness benefit, you're on unemployment benefit, once you return back to work or you feel like you're ready to return back to work, they give you extra benefits in order to help you set up a business. I had decided by that stage that I couldn't really face going back into the corporate world, and this was my chance to really follow my heart's passion and follow the coaching and start to really use my spiritual gift. And because I had been on sickness benefit, I had really not been receiving very much money at all. I'm really not sure how I got through that period financially. So actually to receive some sort of benefit and support in order to help me get back to work was a godsend. So that is an example of how rejection is protection. Had it not been for that period in my life and from me losing that job and getting cancer and being sick and COVID, all of these things happening at that particular time, had they not happened, you may not have been sitting speaking to me today, because I possibly would have still been continuing on in a corporate career that I hated because I wanted to maintain my lifestyle and I didn't want to make that change. It was too much of a risk, or I didn't want to be rejected by society. So whenever we allow the universe to take control and we start to understand that actually those doors that shut on us are potentially leading us on to something better, we can feel a little bit more at ease and actually accept the experiences that are happening in our life. So there's some really positive things that come out of being rejected. Another thing that I really wanted to touch upon as well about being rejected, or the fear of rejection, the emotion that we feel from those times, that is really a blessing from the universe whenever it comes to your healing journey. I talk a lot about the cup being half full. Whenever we have our cup that's full and overflowing, it's amazing. It means that we're pouring into ourselves. We're giving ourselves the nourishment. I don't mean through eating. I mean that we are focusing on ourselves. We are doing the work. We are, setting boundaries. We are creating space for ourselves. We're validating ourselves. We're feeling good. We're doing what needs to be done in order for us to feel good. It's those sort of things, whenever we give back to ourselves, that fill our cup. Whenever our cup isn't fully filled, that's whenever we feel the need to have more validation, more acceptance from other people. And this is where the need to not experience that rejection comes in very strongly. So if you can imagine your cup not being full, and then all of a sudden you experience some form of rejection, it's not even that you're needing somebody to pour into your cup. Rejection is like somebody has knocked that cup and it's knocked even more water out of it, and it's left you feeling lower. Whenever we feel those feelings and we experience something like that, it's really highlighting to us the work that we need to do in order to concentrate on ourselves and in order to build ourselves up. Because whenever we put our own validation and our need to be accepted in the hands of other people that are outside of us, that puts us in a very precarious position. Whenever we focus on ourselves and we fill our cup, rejection doesn't seem so bad. Now, I'm saying that quite blasé. I still have a fear of rejection in certain situations. It takes a while to go away. And there will always be a new situation that comes up that triggers you in some way because it's just uncovered another little part that you need to work on a little bit more. But whenever you're focusing on you and on your healing journey, it really is possible for you to overcome this need for validation and the need to be accepted by everybody else. Whenever we fear rejection, it can hold us hostage to a life that doesn't really belong to us. But whenever we embrace this risk of being rejected, whether it's by a partner, a job, society as a whole, family, whoever it is, we allow ourselves to open up to this opportunity to live the most authentic life and to be the version of us that we needed to be. Now, I have obviously a lot of trauma, it would seem, connected to my time in the corporate world, because I hadn't been that happy towards the finish. And I do still feel a need to be accepted by them. And it really has prevented me from stepping back into this world as a speaker because I'm worried about how I'm perceived now that I've been in my spiritual path. So that has been something that I have personally been working on overcoming as well. So it just goes to show that there's always things. We're never really finished. No matter how much work that we do on ourselves, how much healing that we do, there's always going to be something else that's going to come up and is going to make us fear rejection or make us feel that, oh, but I want to be accepted, or I'll maybe not do that because I don't want to fear the rejection of those people. It's just normal. It's normal as part of our human condition. But what we want to do is lessen that. And whenever we reframe the perspective of rejection's purpose, then it makes us a little bit more palatable for us to deal with, because we can start to think, okay, well, is this fear logical that I've got? Are they going to reject me? Or am I just creating all of these reasons why? Because I'm trying to protect myself. It's like my brain is wanting to stop me from taking that step out and taking that risk and putting myself out there and contacting some people because it doesn't want to get rejected. But actually, whenever I start to think to myself that actually I'm creating all of these different ideas and concepts of why they might reject me, it starts to help me really to break down those limiting beliefs and helps me think, okay, well, actually, let's just go with it and see what happens. So I'm removing the fear. The fear still exists, to be fair, but I'm still removing the fear. I'm removing the obstacle and jumping in feet first with the belief that actually whatever is for me will come to me. So if this is the right direction for me to go in and the right conversations for me to have, that the universe will bring this to me. They will make sure that it happens. If it's the right time, it'll happen now. If it's not the right time and these aren't the right people, then that's okay, because rejection is protection. And it's just helping me be led on to something that is going to serve my needs better. Everything happens at exactly the right time. And it really goes to show as well that we can use rejection to our benefit. We can use it to our advantage, because other people's opinion of you is none of your business. It doesn't matter what other people think of you. It's really irrelevant. All that matters is what you think of you. If we worry all the time about what other people think of us, it's really going to prevent us from living the authentic life that we want to live. When we start realizing that it's not always about us, we can appreciate the journey that other people are on. And sometimes, yes, I talk about dating a lot because it is, I am a single person that does occasionally date. But like sometimes when you do get rejected in the dating world, it is because they're arrogant or they don't think that you're good enough. But actually, sometimes it's because they think that they're not good enough. It's not always about us. So whenever we appreciate that actually somebody is on their own journey, and assume that the universe has intervened that time in order to protect you and to redirect you onto something better. And also accepting that it's only emotion. You're not going to have your arm chopped off or anything like this. This is a temporary thing. Emotions do not stay with us permanently. Things ease, things get better, wounds heal. So the emotion that you feel from the rejection or from the fear of the rejection, it isn't going to be with you permanently. And it will change over time. It will get easier. Also, another thing that's really important is that we do remember that this is an opportunity to heal, regardless of whether it's rejection or any type of emotion really that we're experiencing. It is the universe giving us a chance to discard what is no longer needed in our lives and to do a self-analysis of, okay, what is this that I'm feeling? Where is it coming from? Is it logical that I'm feeling this way? Do I need to continue to feel this way? Or how can I change my thinking around this? How can I help myself overcome this? And it enables us to have that space where we can actually discard what isn't serving us and move forward into something better. And trust that everything comes in divine timing. Everything will come at the exact right time. It doesn't matter how much we want it or how hard we want it to come right now. The universe knows better. I have a really good analogy, actually. I'm not even sure if I would call it an analogy. It's the rats in a maze. If you can think of rats in a maze, you're one of the rats. The maze is a metaphor for life. You're going through life day to day and you don't know who's around the corner. You don't know if are you going to bump into another rat? Is there some chase? Is there a trap? You don't know these things because you can't see the full measure. You're in there. You only know what's presented to you whenever you turn the corner. Whenever I think of the universe, I think of, the spirit realm, God, and, however you relate to the higher power. They're the ones that are looking down on the maze. So they know if we're going to run into another rat or if it's a trap or if it's cheese. And whenever we leave things up to them and trust that the timing of everything that is coming to fruition is coming at the perfect time for us, it's all going to be coordinated. Remember, it's happening for you. It's not happening to you. That brings us some comfort because we still might have those fears around rejection. We still might have that. But actually, whenever we trust that everything is going to come at the right time, we can assume that the rejection that we are experiencing at that time is because we're being prepared for something greater. There's something being cooked up for us that we're just maybe not ready for yet. We're being prepared. And trust that the rejection is a redirection. It is something better that's to come.